Welcome, friends. Welcome on the Barricades. This is a podcast produced by Eastern European journalists and academics. And I am your host, Maria Cernat. And with me, as usual, the co host of our podcast, Polish journalist Boyan Stanislavski. Thank you for being here with us.
Hello.
So, the reason why we are here today is to discuss the migrant crisis in Poland. More than 3,000 migrants are trying to get into Poland with the intention of reaching Germany. It is suspected that Alexander Lukashenko, Belarus president, is luring migrants into Belarus with the promise that they will get into Poland. The Polish authorities so far reacted harshly. The Polish state declared state of emergency across the border, and it deployed more than 12,000 soldiers there in order to secure the area. And Polish Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki, I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly, said that the border is not just a line on a map. The border is sacred because Polish blood has been spilled for it. Also, Ursula von der Leyen doesn't seem to be more nuanced in her approach. She said that the solution she is advancing is for top EU officials to go in the countries of origins of migrants and to warn them that they will not be getting into Poland, and also they would somehow target airlines coming from these countries that transport asylum seekers from the Middle East to Belarus. And unfortunately, the response of Germany and its interior minister was that the Poles are doing the right thing and that the Poles are fulfilling a very important service for the whole of Europe. Now, what troubles me here is that what is this service that the Poles are fulfilling actually? Like treating migrants the way they do in a very harsh manner. This is the service that they provide. What do you think, Boyan?
Well, obviously, this is a service that they provide because the European Union wants that and supports those actions of the Polish government. So here, there's a complete unison, and we're used to, of course, some artificial, I would argue, conflicts between Brussels and Warsaw. But when it comes to critical situations, crucial situations like the one unfolding now on the Polish-Belarusian border, there's complete unity. And when it comes to notions like racism, like Islamophobia, even if you like a demonstration of strength at the cost of lives or health of helpless people, like those on the Polish-Belarusian border, then everybody agrees on those particular European values, if you like. So Ursula von der Leyen, she can say whatever she likes, about companies that she says that she's going to influence airlines, right, in particular. That she's going to influence in order to stop the influx of migrants into Belarus and from there to the European Union, to Poland and to Germany and so on and so forth. Well, here's a problem, the major problem. Those airlines, they operate in a capitalist environment, and in capitalism you cannot tell a company what to do. Okay, so Ursula von der Leyen, if she's attempting to tell a company what to do, then she's contradicting her basic ideological standpoints, because she is in favor of capitalism, she's in favor of liberal capitalism, she's in favor of globalization, she's in favor of free market and movements of capitalism, and so on and so forth. So I just don't see how she's going to do that, and why this ideological shift suddenly. Now, second, the question of Mateusz Morawiecki and him explaining what the border is. Well, what a border is, children are taught at grade 2 or 3 or something like that. So it doesn't take a Polish prime minister to explain it to other adult people what a border is. So this is just a circus, and this is something absolutely absurd. Yeah, for me, this is yet another act of capitulation of Mateusz Morawiecki and the Law and Justice, which pretend to be, this right-wing, conservative, strong party that is going to defend Poland, is very patriotic, and so on and so forth. Well, the only thing that they can do is to hang around and explain to people that, oh, border is sacred, and blood has been spilled for whatever, for that border to be protected or
And
whatever.
now it is important to spill more blood
Yeah,
because
I guess now it's
border
important.
is something where you spill blood.
Yeah, exactly. And on top of everything, they would say that they are securing the Polish border. I mean, is this is just so grotesque. Like, a border where people die is a secure border? It's not a secure border. It's a very insecure. It's a dangerous border. And on top of everything, they are flexing their muscles, but it just shows to any person that can see through the propaganda surface. It just shows how the Polish state is inept and how the Polish state is unprepared for any critical situations. They've enacted this law, emergency state, in a stripe of land along the Polish-Belarusian border. And what has changed, except for one thing, and I suppose that this is why they actually have enacted that emergency state. The journalists are not allowed there. So,
Yes, this
you know,
is very
yeah,
important for us
exactly.
to spill blood, but for the journalists not to be able to see how
To
we are
see that,
spilling.
yeah, so that's fantastic. I mean, some even have joked that probably I don't know, a week ago or 2 weeks ago or whenever this no, it was, sorry, it was 2 months ago, not 2 weeks ago, 2 months ago, when this law when this state of emergency was enacted, that probably Jarosław Kaczynski, the leader of Law and Justice, the currently ruling party, and the mastermind of the Polish internal political process, he probably, I don't know, watched some movie from the Vietnam War or something like this, and he saw that it's not good when you have journalists with you and they can see and sort of show the public opinion how things actually happen in a war, which is a very brutal and a very traumatic experience. Okay, not only for those who participate in that, obviously, but even for those who watch this. But then they've collected 15,000 people, 15,000 people in uniforms along the border in this tract of land. It's the army, it's the military police, it's the regular police, and it's the territorial army, which is just youth with guns who have no idea how to use them even. And I'm really afraid that they would rather shoot themselves if they start playing with guns rather than shoot any enemies, even perceived enemies like those poor people that are trying to cross the border. So those 15,000 people are there, and I don't quite see what are they supposed to do, because they are what they are doing is they're putting fences, some kind of fences, barbed wire, razor wire, and stuff like that. But then Lukashenko and the border guards on the Belarusian side, they give those people they started giving them instruments to cut that wire and to be able to go through. And then there are these large groups of people in uniform, all of them masked. I don't quite understand why the Polish border guard and why the Polish military and why the Polish police, why do they have to wear masks? I mean, why are they afraid to show their faces to those people? It just quite and those people, they don't have gas, they don't have sophisticated weaponry, they just have shovels and some scissors to cut the wire that they received from the Belarusians. So this is the only thing they have. And on the other side, there are those people fully geared, okay, in those uniforms and with the sophisticated weaponry, and the only thing they can do is basically take out a can of gas and spray people that are trying to cross the border and trying to cut the fence. So you don't need 15,000 people to do that. It's enough to get, like, I don't know, 10, 20, 100 policemen maybe that would move like back and forth, because this is what's happening. I mean, it's not like those people that are 15,000, those 3,000 migrants that you mentioned, that, by the way, there are other
Yes.
speculations that there are 15,000 or 20,000 migrants. They could be even more. And let us not forget that there are about, I think the number was 47, last I heard, 47 flights every month from various points in the Middle East to Grodno, to Minsk, and to other cities and towns in Belarus. So the number is obviously growing. And it's just absolutely incomprehensible for me. How is this possible that the Polish state is now using the whole of its strength, okay, and still is unable to do anything? Because those migrants, okay, many of them have been stopped, obviously, through violence and through gas, and also through violence, direct violence. I mean, I have seen many videos, and you can find them in the internet if you look for them, how Polish border guards, how Polish policemen, how Polish military policemen, and how other people in uniforms with a Polish flag on that uniform are harassing, brutalizing people, lying on the ground, beating them, torturing them, doing all kinds of, horrendous things to them, with, mothers and children crying. And we're talking about scenes which are absolutely hair-raising and gruesome. And to me, and I've stated that a few times already when we spoke about this topic. I'm not a person that has much of an emotional approach to politics, and I actually discourage people from having an emotional approach to politics. But what I have seen, this is so gruesome. This is so gut wrenching. This is something that, yesterday I heard, because there was this debate in the special plenary session of the Polish Parliament, dedicated to the government bringing information on the situation on the border. And it's just everybody spoke in unison, including the left, by the way, that the Polish border guards, the Polish policemen, the Polish military, all of the Polish people in uniform that are there, that they are fantastic people serving the country, doing their best, and all the rest of it. Like, and how people who are offending them in the internet or wherever, and that's probably me, I assume, because I'm against those actions, that how we are the traitors, how we are the scum of the
Course.
earth, how we are no one, and how we should be prosecuted. So please,
Oh,
here I want to make a statement. I hereby offend with the most vulgar words all the Polish servicemen in the military, in the police, in the military police, and in the territorial army. Please come arrest me and put me on trial. I want to see how much I'm going to get for this. Hereby, again, I offend everyone of those. So, there is no
this is
way for a decent
but
person.
this is what happens also when they create this crisis situation. Whenever there is a situation where you don't have to admit that you are no longer obeying any kind of law and international law, human rights, nothing. So you create this hysteria and create this rhetorical argument that is us versus them. And
Yeah,
if you criticize the military, you are criticizing us, basically. So they create this type of, now let us look a little bit at the border to see what we are exactly where we are now with this. So basically, from Belarus, from that point, the migrants want to cross actually board the Poland. This is interesting. Why are you spilling blood for a border that is not even an end in itself? People want to leave Poland, just want to cross Poland
yeah.
and get to Germany. Maybe Germany would have been the one to say, oh, look, the border is sacred. But what about Poland? This is so absurd and this is laughable. I mean, you're defending with such big words a border of a territory that the migrants do not want to stay in. Isn't
Mhm.
this pathetic? I mean, and also, they use this patriotic rhetoric when, if you ask the migrants, their goal is not Poland. So, what exactly are you defending,
No,
basically?
they're not defending any. Well, they're defending something. They're probably defending the Polish border, and like I don't know to what extent is this is cynism and political PR that they're trying to put in place here, or to what extent is it that they really believe they have to do that? It's very difficult, sometimes to sort of figure it out. When it comes to abortion, for example, and we spoke about that 2 weeks ago, then I'm it's clear for me that it's just pure cynism and misogyny, and they just hate women and they just want to do things, score political points at the expense of lives and health of the Polish women. But here, obviously they do want to score some political points, and I think it's very appealing to their base, because the hardcore base of the law and justice is definitely the most frustrated and most uh, morally lumpenized part of the Polish peasantry and of the Polish working class. So we're talking about people who have been frustrated to the extent that what is appealing to them is demonstration of violence and other kind of primitive and violent behavior. And of course, this is a general cultural and I would say political and social problem in the Polish society, which of course is speaks to the dynamics that were produced in the Polish society by the so-called transition. Uh, in other words, restoration of capitalism. But that's a different show. So yeah, I mean, of course, this sort of behavior does appeal to a certain extent to some people, but then you know the why does it why is it really appealing? Well, it's appealing because there is no rational reasoning in it. Like there's just, and this is what we have been accustomed to by Law and Justice and by other political parties, by the way, as well, is that there is law and justice, the church of law and justice in the society, and the church of the democratic opposition. And those churches, they only have their dogmas and their axiomas, and that's it. Like you don't discuss them. It's like that's why I refer to them as churches. And one such dogma is that whatever law and justice does is always bad, like it's on the part of the opposition. And yeah, dogma is whatever the opposition does is always bad because it's Germany or Brussels or someone else telling them to do that, maybe Russia even, depending on what the concrete and specific situation is. But here, suddenly, they are in unison again. Like, I mean, again, it happens every once in a while that they are in unison, particularly when it comes to Russia, or like the kind of submissive attitude to America, or NATO, and so on and so forth. Then there is no problem. Okay, I mean, they always act in a very united and a very unified manner. And here the same. Yesterday, I told you there was this special plenary session of the Polish Parliament because on November 8th there were more migrants, like a couple of hundred maybe, because usually it's like small groups, 10, 15 people, one family, two families trying to cross the border here and there. And the border is just forests. It's like it's a huge wood. There is no, like, a river or a specific natural boundary, okay, that would divide the two countries, Poland and Belarus. So they just, sometimes those families, they don't know where to go. They don't know where the west is, where the east is, where north or south, because they're not equipped properly. So they just hang around in those forests for weeks, not knowing whether they're on the Polish side or the Belarusian side. And they're kicked by both, by the Polish border guards and by the Belarusian border guards. And this is a full, total, absolute, tragedy of those people. And so many have died already, and we don't know how many, because the journalists are not allowed to do their job on the Polish side. Some journalists that are allowed by Lukashenko to go there, and Lukashenko is very selective, so you can trust that those people that are allowed to go there and make reports from on the ground on the Belarusian side, that they are going to produce narratives which are favorable for Lukashenko. And yesterday, I hear in the Polish parliament how one of the most important weapons of the Belarusian regime is misinformation, is disinformation. We have to combat it. Well, how about you let journalists doing their job? This is the way to combat misinformation. Otherwise, it's like we have to rely either on what they refer to as this brutal, harsh, terrible, terroristic regime in Minsk, and their narratives, or we have to rely on the narratives of the Polish government. And sorry, Polish government a couple of weeks ago has shown uh, in this framework, as if they were reporting from on the ground, as if they are reporting from this stripe of land where the emergency state is enacted. They've shown bestiality, okay, on the during their conference, during their press conference, and it was like major news all around the world, really, that the Polish government has lost their mind, and they have claimed that they have found a mobile phone, a memory card, or something like that, which allegedly they've alleged that it belonged to some migrant, and there were some gruesome pictures or video clips on that memory card or mobile phone that they had found. So
Really? So this is the reason, because I can think of a number of men that have quite disturbing pictures on their
oh
phones.
yeah, absolutely. But look, I mean, what I'm trying to say is that Polish government is not, like, no one takes it seriously except maybe for some part of their base that is of law and justice. I mean, no one looking at it who has like a pinch of sanity in their head will know that this is pure nonsense and complete and utter uh, like collective loss of mind. Because look, we're talking about maybe 2 or 3 thousand people. Some claim that it's going to be more, and I wouldn't be surprised if in the future there is more. But look, it's what, 15,000 people? No, sorry, 3,000 people. Let's assume that this is not 3,000 for the sake of argument. Okay, it's not 3,000, but it's much more. It's 10,000 people. Okay, and 10,000 migrants. They present such a dangerous kind of phenomenon. They are so dangerous for the Polish, for Poland, and Poland cannot accept them, and Poland cannot do anything. Poland has to push them back, has to starve them or freeze them to death in those woods and stuff like that. But why really? Because it's 10,000. And then, when you're a rational person, what do? You go and check how many migrants has Poland accepted, for example, last year. And I want to show this, okay, to our viewers, sorry, because I think it's very important so that everyone knows I'm not making it up. Like, to claim that 12 or 15 or 10 or 5,000 people from Iraq and Syria or Afghanistan or wherever they come from there or on the Polish border poses any threat or even difference whatsoever, even remotely, is an absolutely absurd claim. And here is why. This is because, and I'm going to show you now, I'm going to show you the website of the Polish National Statistical Institute. And this is the data for this year, okay, up until now, for this year. Can you see that, Maria?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah, we can see
yes,
that. Okay. So it's 2021. You can see that here, hopefully. The
yes,
total
yes.
amount of migrants accepted in Poland is 137,671. 80,280 of which have received temporary residence. 32,786 have received permanent residence. 16,396 have registered a residence of an EU citizen. 6,209 EU have EU long-term resident stay, and 2,000 have other status. So in those circumstances, sorry, to claim that it makes any difference whatsoever to accept 2, 3, 4, or 15,000 people is just an absolute and utter and straightforward lie. That's what it is. Okay. So this thing is absolutely unnecessary, and this is like the thing that they're doing on the border, the Polish, the collection of the army, the deployment of the police, of the military police, of the territorial army, and who knows what more, and all the helicopters and stuff like that. This is also draining them financially, and it's
It's
draining them
very
not only
important for
draining
the
them
viewers
financially, it's
to.
draining them politically.
Yes, and it's very important for the viewers to understand that you think, oh, they deploy 12,000 soldiers and they have also border police, a couple of thousand. Well, those people have to stay somewhere. They
Yeah,
have to eat. Okay, they have to go to the restroom. They are not robots,
yeah,
and it costs a lot to keep them there. I think it costs like 10 times more than accepting the migrants and treating them humanely. This is
absolutely.
the insanity of the whole situation.
Yes.
And besides that, I would say, how is Lukashenko able to lure these people? Because also this infantilizes these people. It is like they are so detached from reality that Lukashenko is somehow able, with his magic powers, to convince those people to come their house. How is this dynamic playing out? I mean, I don't understand.
Well, of
How is
course,
Lukashenko capable of convincing thousands of people to put themselves in such dire situations? So
well,
what is
Lukashenko is not
happening?
able. I'm sure Lukashenko is not able to sort of deceive them in any concrete and specific manner. That Lukashenko, I don't know, puts deceiving messages on, I don't know, Twitter account or Facebook account or somewhere. Those people read them and they feel like, oh, Lukashenko is going to help me, is my savior. So I will just get on a plane to Belarus, and from there, Lukashenko is going to make it like roll out a red carpet for me to get to Poland or Germany or wherever you want to go. So no, of course it's not that way. I think what Lukashenko is doing is enabling this. I mean, there are so many people in Iraq and Syria because people have a limited knowledge, okay, and a short memory about certain things. Like, for example, the devastating war in Syria. And Syria is now an extremely poor country, and the part of the country where the province called Idlib, it's still a jihadi paradise, okay, until today. So there are people that want to flee from there, and there are people who want to flee from Syrian province because of the general poverty, which is produced by the Western sanctions. Okay, so this is many people will go. Many people will take any opportunity. They know that they will not probably be going through Turkey anymore because Erdogan is not making any symptoms of like he doesn't want to probably do that again. So he's probably even helping. I would guess that he's probably even helping because there are flights from Istanbul and there are flights from other Turkish towns which are operated by Belavia and by Aeroflot to Belarus. So probably he's helping out. Okay, he doesn't want to do the same thing. He doesn't want those great amounts of refugees or migrants going through Turkey and attempting to cross the border to the European Union with Greece from Turkey. So this is that's the answer to your question. They're enabling it, but I don't think that they are necessarily telling and even if they are, I don't believe those people actually buy that they're going to fix them with this. They're going to fix the safe travel to the European Union. I don't think anyone's saying that, but maybe even if they do, I don't believe those people are actually buying that because many people still, particularly in those countries, in Iraq, Syria, and so on and so forth, they remember what it was like in 2015, okay? And how many of them have died on the road, how many of them have drowned in the boats, how many of them have been, abused and tortured by the border guards of the various countries they had to pass through. So I think that they're just hoping to get anywhere, and I believe that there are places in Iraq, which is largely a failed state, thanks to consecutive American invasions. That for them, they really don't have anything to lose. That's why they are a perfect tool, so to say. I hate to use that because those people are not a tool; they are live people, but they are weaponized in a perfect manner by Lukashenko because Lukashenko knows that they are not going to be coming back from that border. Like in a way, they're not going to give up. They're just going to go, even at the cost of being shot, because they've got nothing to lose. They're just going to go there. They've given their last pennies probably to travel to Belarus, and they just want to go anywhere. And they are really really ready to do everything. And on those clips that I mentioned earlier, you can see how the Polish border guards they try to use gas on them, or they try to beat them with batons and stuff like that, and they don't care. They just do their job. They cut the fence and they try to pull it apart. And it's only because the presence of the police was so massive that they were not able to break through the cordons, okay, of the police of the people, so that they were not able to do. That's why this great march, so to say, of the 8th of November didn't really work. But this is like, okay, the Polish military has kind of won the battle, but I don't believe that they're going to be able to win the war, because let's imagine they're going to have 50,000 people. What are you going to do? They're going to have to shoot at them. Otherwise, I just don't quite see, because Lukashenko is going to give them all the equipment that they need, and in order to cut the fence and go through the fence and so on and so forth, and they are not going to be able to build a wall like they are in their Trump moment. They want to build a wall, and that's going to be great. As if the wall cannot be somehow
Climb.
damaged, or torn down or whatever. So yeah, they're hoping all these things are going to happen, and you know it really makes no sense. And what is most important here? What is most important here? Because they hate Lukashenko, they hate Putin, and they of course, yesterday's plenary session, by the way, of the parliament was nothing else, was an act of absolute and utter abdication of the Polish powers, of the Polish parliament and the Polish parties, because none of them have offered anything, any kind of solution to this. All of them have only this was a kind of a festival of anti-Belarusian, anti-Lukashenko opinions. That's what it was. Like, everybody started and ended their speech with how bad and terrible this regime and Lukashenko. And yeah, he's a terrible guy. I mean, I'm not going to defend him. He's not really, the hero of my story. But one thing that they avoid, they conveniently skip, is they forget to say, why is this happening?
Yes,
Because
exactly. Because, as bad as Lukashenko might be, and he is a terrible person, we
yeah,
discussed him extensively on our shows. He doesn't have much political vision. He's kind of a brutal person with a very limited perspective on politics. We discussed this a couple of times, and he also takes these very harsh measures against opponents. Okay, we know that. But why is this that exactly now he's targeting Poland and other Baltic states that did something to him? Because
Yeah.
he's not doing that. He did not just wake up one morning and said to himself, oh, today I'm going to do something to hurt Poland and to show the world what hypocrites they are to say to me that I do not obey human rights, and I'm going to do something to expose them. Just like that. No, it was not like that. And we have to decide, when does history starts, because it
Right.
doesn't start with
Uh,
this.
I just wanna I just wanna add here that perhaps, just perhaps, and I imagine it's perfectly possible that it did happen the way you said it wouldn't. Like he might have just woken up one day and said that today I'm going to do this because because this is pretty much how the political process happens in Belarus. And by the way, this is also pretty much how the political process happens in Poland. The president of the Law and Justice Party, the one currently ruling in Poland, the one Jarosław Kaczynski, he just wakes up in the morning, starts shaving, looks at the mirror, and he has an idea suddenly. And this idea becomes part of the inherent part of the Polish internal political process. And I feel that the same is in Belarus even more. So I think that's possible. But the question is, what gave him that idea? What inspired him to do have this idea early in the morning after after a long night's sleep? So you know, I think Lukashenko has had enough. Last year, they tried to overthrow him, and by saying they, I refer to what the Russians like to say, the collective West, which is like, I don't want to go into the details how much of the preparation of his overthrow was the work of the Americans, how much of it was the work of various EU countries. It doesn't matter. They've attempted to overthrow him, and there are also rumors which I find, the more I read about it, the more convincing it appears to me, because at first I thought it's just his extravagance, like Lukashenko's lunacy, that there was an attempt to take his life. There were plans to assassinate him, actually, him and his family. And I think he has had enough. Also, they have sanctioned him to the largest possible extent. I don't know. There's another set of sanctions now being prepared against Belarus, the fifth set of sanction. I don't quite understand what else are they going to sanction there. And by the way, the Polish left has complained that, this brutal dictator has to be sanctioned, and all those people who are still on the who try to empathize with the fate of those on the border, trapped between Poland and Belarus right now. They say that, oh no, we have to receive them, we have to help them, we have to be humanitarian, but at the same time, we have to crush Belarus, we have to sanction them to death, and so on and so forth. So they just want to display humanitarian attitude towards those people who are in direct need in the woods, but otherwise, they are perfectly okay with the Belarusian people, those that live in Belarus, which are many more, millions of people, many more than those 3 or 4 or 5 or 10,000 on the Polish border. It's okay to starve them to death with sanctions. That's fine.
I would
Okay.
add here,
Yeah,
sorry for interjecting. I
sure.
find this one of the most problematic aspects of the leftist politics recently. First of all, they are completely uneducated in terms of international relations. Second, their declarations are just the ones that probably the secret services and the military PR agency would just issue in the press. I mean, it's a starkling resemblance between what the state and the military apparatus would like and what the left is saying. Basically, the European Union is perfect. NATO is perfect. We only have dictators that it is okay to crush and sanction. They are following the exact lines that are produced in the media by the state apparatus and by the military and so on and so forth. So completely uneducated, second of all, completely obedient to this type of rhetoric, and the third, very knowledgeable of other parts. I mean, they have very detailed debates on how to distinguish. I don't say this is wrong, okay, because I don't want to be canceled here or misinterpreted. So I don't say this is wrong. This is an observation. They have thousands, of posts and shares on how to distinguish between a transsexual and a transgender person. But when it comes to international politics, they're completely illiterate. They don't know, or at least even if they know these things, they do not show it. They act like 5 years old children.
Yeah.
I mean, no education, no knowledge of recent history, nothing. They are just repeating the mantras that are provided by the government. And I find this very, very problematic.
Yes, I find this very problematic, and we've spoken about that many times. And I don't want to go into this because we would have to speak probably for another hour in order to reach to some conclusions and to let some steam off because it's so frustrating for both of us. But I also want to, but I want to say this in this concrete and specific context: the Polish left has exactly offered zero, nothing, no solution. It's the only thing they said is that yesterday during the debate, and before that, I watched a special press conference live on YouTube and everything. So I watched a special press conference that was a couple of days ago before this plenary session, and they said that they demand that the president calls a meeting, calls a kind of an extraordinary meeting of an institution that's called the National Security Council. Like the National Security Council, like by the name of it, you can more or less get a sense of what they're dealing with. And it's important, allegedly, that's what the left here claims, to have this meeting of the Security Council because all the political formations should act in unison in this concrete and specific circumstances when Poland is endangered by the actions of the evil devil Lukashenko. And yesterday during the parliamentary session, the first thing that the Law and Justice said, or the prime minister stated that, by the way, he opened the session. He said that exactly the same thing, that we should act in unison, that there should be no political differences should be away. And the left buying that, you stupid people, like this is exactly when you should act politically and when you should display all your political potential, because it's exactly now when you should have something to offer. Those morons, those absolutely brainless, pawns that are, the members of parliament on the Polish left and activists who support them. This is
But they are not
such a
educated. I'm sorry.
capitulation.
I mean, if you look at their background, I bet
No,
that
no, some
most
of them
of
are.
them do not have degrees in international relations,
No, but some
economics.
of them do have degrees, and some of them do understand because I know them personally. I mean, the Polish left is
And
not so
so
big,
why
but I
is
have.
that? This is even more troubling
Okay,
because
let me. Yeah, I'll get to that. But before that happens, I want to speak a little more about the political context here, because the Polish left, what they should have done, and I'm saying that I think for the third and fourth time, what they should have done is they should have explained this what I'm explaining now, which is 10 or 5 or 6,000 migrants is no problem for us. We can receive them, and 1/4 of the money that Poland has invested in this deployment of troops and so on and so forth would have sufficed to bring there some containers where people would receive medical help, where people would receive some basic help, aid, like they would have a place to sleep, maybe they would, and all the asylum seekers would be serviced there, their documents would be received. It's a matter of, I don't know, 100, 300, 500, 1,000 containers, okay, that you need to bring, which would be much easier than deploying all the troops and putting them there. And I want to say it's a very important thing, because everybody explained in the parliament, including the Polish left, explained how we are doing everything against. No, we are doing like the whole effort is to demonstrate to Lukashenko that we're not going to play ball with him, that we're not going to, we're not going to act the way he expects us to act. And you are
we
doing
are going to
exactly that,
steal your
guys. You're doing exactly that. You're being drained morally, you're being drained financially, you're being stressed politically. This is what he wanted to do. He's sitting there eating popcorn and champagne and drinking champagne because you are acting exactly the way he expected you will. And you know why is that? Because the Polish political class is a bunch of primitive idiots. That's what it is. And everyone who had any close relations with any major representative of the Polish political class after 1989 is going to tell you that with the Polish political class, if you want to make them do something, if you want to have them do something for you or on your behalf, at your behest, you go there, you don't even pay them, you don't bribe them, you just tap them on the arm and you say, oh, you are a great nation with a fantastic history. You are the most important nation of Europe, and you are so great. Please go ahead and do this. And they just go ahead and do that, for the tip. or for the tap on the arm, for the tip that you're going to potentially offer to them, like in the case of the secret CIA prisons. They just gave the Polish, that's what the investigation has revealed. They gave the Polish back then $15 million for the entire operation. $15 million, like it's like one plastic bag of money. That's what it is. They gave them 50, and we don't even know who received that, let alone if anyone paid tax. But this is just this is the situation. And because Lukashenko, whatever you want to tell, whatever you want to, however you want to describe him morally, ethically, and so on, and he's all those things like brutal dictator and so on and so forth. But he's smarter than the entire Polish political class, and the Polish political class is so, I mean, those low lives, okay, they are so predictable, okay, to anyone that you can play with them the way you want. And you can use any instrument, even the most cynical, in a most cynical manner, like Lukashenko is doing right now, and they're going to play exactly what they're going to play the way
It's
you
so
want them
frustrating
to,
that they
to behave.
claim to be so patriotic, but at the same time, they are just playing and doing exactly what they are supposed to do.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Lukashenko would have been so shocked to see that the migrants are, kept there in humane conditions, and
Yeah.
the Polish authorities act
Have no
humanely. He
problem.
would have been, I mean, he would have been put, in a very difficult position. But now it's exactly what he wants, and I think the only way out would have been to have a discussion with him, actually,
Yeah,
because
exactly. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for saying that. But because there are two ways here. One is, and I'm going to elaborate on that in a minute, but I also want to say that the left, what the left should have done is should have offered to receive those people, and should have also should have suggested that Poland, while receiving the first wave of people crossing the border illegally, while receiving them, should be discussing with the European Union, particularly with Germany, which is the place where most of them probably want to go, should discuss with them for Germany to receive many of those migrants, or to facilitate a mechanism like they used to press everyone to accept quotas of refugees or migrants, whatever. And then Poland would be able to also leverage the European Union with this, and they would go like, look, go and do something right now, because if you won't, then we're going to receive those people and we're going to put them on trains, on trucks, on buses, and we're going to drive them straight to the German border, and from then on they're going to be your problem. And I don't like, regardless of the morality of this thing, but at least it's much more moral than what is happening right now, because those people wouldn't be starving or freezing to death. They would be fed, and they would have clean clothes, and they would have undergone medical checkup, and they would have and many of them probably would have applied for asylum or whatever other status. So that would have been much more humanitarian and much more moral than what is happening right now, and it would be politically much more wiser. But as I said, the Polish political class, and I say that responsibly, and I don't use that word lightly, are idiots. They are brainless people who have no idea of politics. They only are able to posture and pretend that they are morally better than the others. So that's one thing. And second thing, of course, that would be a very wise move, I suppose. And I think it would be a very wise move in general in terms of Polish international politics, because Belarus, up until last year, was a country that Poland had no major conflict with, even historically speaking. Like, the Germans have killed Polish during the Second World War and have killed their Jews and so on and so forth. The Soviet Union, did certain human rights abuses and so on and so forth, or enforced some human rights abuses and regimes in the 40s and early 50s. Then, there are historical conflicts with Sweden, which is through the Baltic Sea at the north, of Poland. Then, the question of the conflict, of the territorial conflict from the 20s with in the 30s with Czechoslovakia, with now Czech Republic and Slovakia. So look there, and Belarus. Belarus has nothing like this. Okay. Oh, and Ukraine. I forgot about Ukraine and the Volhynia events of 1943 or 41. Sorry, beginning of the 40s. And the kind of genocide of the Polish people there. So Belarus is the only kind of, historically in all other terms, a friendly nation to the Polish. I mean, they have no differences really, and there is no premise for them to have arguments. But in the early 2000s, of course, the Polish minority in Belarus, which is a large one, was ignited, okay, on political demand to act against Lukashenko. Okay, and that's when the problem started to begin. And now, of course, all those people, okay, during the chairman of the Polish organizations in Belarus, during the last year's protest, they have been arrested and put in jail. So now Poland has no influence in Belarus, not even any control of their own population. They're not even any kind of contact with their own population there, because those Polish organizations there are dysfunctional completely. So, this is how it started, and this is how it has been increasing, like this conflict, artificially pumped up conflict when Poland was flexing its muscles against Belarus at the behest of the West. Now, if they wanted to prevent that before it all happened, and let's assume, for the sake of the discussion, that there are some meaningful intelligence services in Poland, then I think they should have known that before, that this kind of operation is being prepared. Okay, they should have known ahead of time. What should have happened is someone should have been sent from Poland to Minsk to speak directly to Lukashenko and to go like, okay, we know it was stupid. We did try to overthrow you, and we now see that we cannot overthrow you, and we want to change. We're not going to harass you anymore. Here is some presents from us. Could you please at least limit the influx of migrants, because we just can't take them? That would be a smart way to go. But of course, for a Polish politician, anything which is smart and rational makes no sense. What is important for them is to posture, against Lukashenko, whom they hate. They hate his guts, because he's, particularly now, because he has the nerve, right, to actually put pressure on Poland, and Poland is sacred, and the blood has been spilled for the border. This is what's appealing to Polish politicians. They are just zeros, like absolute political zeros. They are no ones, and this is probably the most pitiful moment in the modern Polish history, when such absolutely inept and stupid, ignorant people are the head of the nation. This is an utter plight of the Polish statehood.
And on that very optimistic note, we will end this segment of our show. I would say that definitely everywhere we look, we find very inept politicians, and it has structural causes because the structure and the hierarchy of the elites changed. You have the military elite that is more important than the political one. You have, of course, the financial and economic elites that are more important. And unfortunately, the political elites, the only ones that are our representatives and that we can choose, are becoming more and more inept, as Boyan showed during his interventions on this segment of our show. I think it is very important to take a very close look at what is happening with Belarus and to stop thinking in tribal terms, us versus them, for the left to overcome this very teenager's perspective, when you have a bad guy that I don't want to go to the party with and I don't want to negotiate with him because he's so bad, because this is not the way to solve problems in international politics and in politics in general, where this kind of thing of morale doesn't work. You have to start negotiating, you have to see interests, you have to discuss power, interest,
And,
and
and,
how
and
to
sorry to
solve problems.
interrupt, but you also have to be aware of your own capacity, because
Exactly, this
Poland
is
is
also
paying its
very important.
price. Poland is paying its price for pretending that they are an empire, and you can you can
This
try
is
and
not
meddle. I'm against that, but I understand that you can try and meddle in other countries' affairs, but only under the condition that you can actually take things to their end. Not like we're going to meddle, we're going to make a mess, and then we're going to say we're great. Well, okay, you did that, and now you're paying the price for it. This is the bill,
Yeah,
and you're not
this is
able to pay
also
it.
only the beginning, I would say,
Yeah.
because things are going to go from bad to worse. And The only good thing is that we are going to be here trying to make some sense out of this mess and trying to provide useful information and analysis. Thank you very much for
Thank you.
watching, and stay healthy, keep fighting, help us. Go to our Patreon page, patreon.com/the barricade. This is where you can become our supporters. Now, thank you very much, and I'll see you in our next show.
Thank
Bye.
you.